ago, I ticked over 1,000 miles of riding on the Niner e-gravel bike. I rode it up mountains and down mountains and on all sorts of varied non-paved surfaces. So how did it hold up? Find out in this video. The Niner RLT E9 Rdo has been invaluable to me and my cancer recovery over the last year. And I wanted to pop in and give you all an update after logging 1,000 miles. If you haven't watched my original video, make sure you do that because it all still stands, and I'm not going to get into quite the same level of technical details here. So overall, the Niner RLT E9 Rdo held up great. It got dusty, it got dirty, and it continued to function really well with no problems. So in my first video, I called it a solid and stable bike that felt planted and had predictable handling. And after 1,000 miles, I would still describe it that way. The weight of the bike keeps you grounded, very connected to the ground feeling, which leads to a surprisingly smooth ride on gravel. In my first video, I also talked about how it picks up speed really quickly on a descent, and that is also still true. While we were in California, we rode some pretty steep routes, and descending on those, I will be honest, my hands got a little tired from all of the braking. In my first video, I said that I was a little bit concerned about the cover over the charging plug on the frame. It turns out, after 1,000 miles, I never had a problem with it. And I even found that when I took the time to line it up really well, that there's a really satisfying seal. In my first video, I also mentioned that we lost the bolt on the battery compartment. But after 1,000 miles, everything else was rock solid. Even the wider tires that we really squeezed in there worked out long term. And granted, we didn't ride through any real sticky mud, but even though there was just that hair of clearance, it still worked out just fine. The big thing that I didn't put in the first video is that the computer on the bike actually has a lot more information to share. And I didn't put it in the first video because it turns out it's worth reading the user's manual. And I actually discovered this by accident and then went hunting for, well, what did I stumble on here? And the computer has multiple screens that you can toggle through that shows an odometer, so overall miles ridden on the bike, a trip meter, so you can tell how far you've ridden today, this week, whatever your distance might be. And it also has this really interesting dynamic estimate of the mileage remaining to your battery, depending on which e-assist mode you are in. And it's really kind of interesting because you can toggle through the different modes while you're pedaling, and it will change up or down to give you an idea of, well, let's see, I'm at the bottom of this climb, I might get tired going uphill, and I'm going to want to up the amount of assistance, so how many miles do I have? It takes into consideration how fast you're going at that moment, what level of assist you're in, obviously, and how hard you are working. So if you're going uphill, say, and you're really putting in a lot of effort, it's going to show fewer miles remaining than if you happen to be flying downhill. It definitely came in handy for a number of our rides, especially while we were in California, because some of them were considerably steep, and I would find that we would get close to the top and I would have 2 bars left and be a little bit concerned, shall we say. But knowing that even if it said I had 6 miles to go, once I got to the top and turned around, I was basically a free fall. So over the last almost year of having the Niner RLT E9 Rdo, I rode a mix of paved and gravel. I rode predominantly in eco and tour mode. And what I found is that I needed to charge the bike every 30 to 50 miles. And that's my update. Overall, it's an excellent bike, and I still highly recommend it. I can hardly believe that I put 1,000 miles on it, and it performed admirably and took me to places that I wanted to be able to go. Huge thanks to Niner again for the extended loan. I'm really appreciative. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments below. Thanks, y'all.